Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Rainmakers Roundup. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I'm with Elissa Hecker. Alissa is the principal of her law firm, Elissa Hecker, up in New York. And Alissa, great to have you on the program. I've been looking forward to this for a while. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
It's great to have you. It really is. It's a hot summer day, but man, we are doing our thing, and I'm all dressed up, and it's a great, it's a really great day. So it's great to have you on the program. Alissa, tell us a little bit about the law firm and your practice, and kind of like what makes you unique in the entertainment and business world.
Well, thank you so much. I like to think that we're keeping it cool today on this hot day.
We are cool.
I have a practice that's where I'm go-to general counsel for small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. I also have a specialty in entertainment and the arts. What makes me different? I'm all about relationships. I've had a practice for about 18 years. I was in the music business prior, and I hung out a shingle when my first child was born. There really wasn't anything like flex time at that point, so she came with me to all my first client meetings until she could climb out of her stroller, and the rest is kind of history. So I'm really about the people. I'm about the businesses. There's no such thing as just one legal issue. I like to look at the big picture. I know that it takes a long time to develop good, trusted personal relationships, and I always put in the time for that. I also have, with my arts and entertainment clients and a lot of solopreneurs, I have a flexible payment kind of schedule because I like to work with them so they can do what they do best and not break the bank on their legal protections and their legal infrastructure. So what happens is I work with them in the beginning so that they can grow and they can scale, and then we're in it together for the long haul. Mm-hmm. So it's relationships.
What are some of the challenges that you face, especially on the entertainment and arts side, Alissa? Because a lot of times, my son's in this business as well. He's a professional drummer down in Nashville, and we talk about the business side of the entertainment business all the time. And it seems to me that, I don't know, folks that are creative like that, oftentimes struggle with the business aspects of their industry. Is that a challenge for you?
It's not really a challenge for me because I like to handle what I call their legal and business affairs.
Yeah.
Where I'm able to create what they need so that they, like I said earlier, so that they could create their creations, whether it's writing music, whether it's dancing, whether it's performing, whether it's memorizing lines. So it's a challenge. Sometimes you have creative people who are also business minded, mm-hmm. and that I find like you struck the lottery when you have a client like that because they really understand. At other times I try to put together a team for my clients. So we have a good accountant. I'm the attorney. We have good folks around them so that they can really be protected and go forward with the confidence knowing that they have what they need to be really successful.
You mentioned relationships a few minutes ago, and the importance of that, and then you said something that really struck a chord with me, Alissa, because you obviously are listening to your clients very intently when you put together a flexible payment schedule for them, and to me that speaks volumes about. People talk about relationships all the time. Everything in business and anything you do is about relationships. But they can't define exactly what the heck that means. You just did. You just did. That's exactly what it's all about, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we need to build trust. So I'm not in it to take your money, for example. It doesn't do me any good to handle one thing and then you pay me and we never talk again. I'm also very invested in what my clients do. I'm really interested in their businesses and I'm really working towards the success. Because otherwise it's just transactional. Yeah. And honestly, I'm at the point in my career where I don't want transactional relationships. It doesn't fulfill me, and it certainly doesn't fulfill my role as an attorney just to be in and out. I've been doing this for a while, so I feel very lucky to be able to really grow and enjoy and learn from my clients as well.
Good for you, because I could feel it. I could feel the excitement in your voice and the way you talk about clients. And
yeah, I love what I do.
You love what
I do. I may be one of the only attorneys you'll ever meet who really loves being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky about that.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What is the drive? What's the passion? What gets, when you get up in the morning and you start to think about the clients, what exactly is it, in your own words, what exactly is it that gets you so jacked up about what you do day by day?
That's a very good question. For my business clients, working with folks who are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, there is an energy, there is a passion, there is a drive. Especially, I saw this a lot starting in 2020 with the pandemic, where folks ended up leaving jobs where they had been forever and just thought they would be there forever. Yeah. And all of a sudden, whether they were laid off or had to leave, rediscovered themselves. And that was phenomenal, especially with women. I found a lot of my clients are moms who left the business world, or who have kids who are old enough and now they don't want to work for anyone anymore and they want to go off on their own. That's very exciting for me to see where all of these are going. In terms of the creatives, I love working on projects. I love working to see what happens, and then I could turn on the television, or I can read a book, or I could see the finished product of my clients, or go to a play and see what happens. I was a choreographer in a past life and a dancer, and I equate it to creating a piece of choreography and then seeing it performed by amazing dancers, where I couldn't necessarily do that on my own, but I watched them. And it is a wonderful thing to be able to see folks with whom you're working succeed. And that's pretty much what drives me. And I also do, a big part of my practice, about a third of my practice, is pro bono, because I do realize that there are not-for-profits and arts and entertainers who can't afford a lawyer. So some of those are the most rewarding projects on which I work, where I can really see that I make a difference in people's lives.
What a great, that is so great. I love hearing that about you and the way you handle things. And I kind of knew that you were in the dance business. Obviously, if you just move your head to your left or your right, you'll see right behind you. That's awesome. I love that. But take us through, if you can, that pathway from the time you were a little girl to going to law school, going to Union College, and then going to law school. And what was the impetus behind you wanting to do that? Especially,
well, I was a dancer pretty much
career.
For my whole life up through college, but not professionally.
Yeah.
And my father was one of the original attorneys in the copyright bar, primarily in visual arts.
Okay.
And I grew up working in his office and working with him, meeting his clients. We had some of the most incredible photographers, even at my wedding, who became personal friends of the family. And I watched him, and he still practices and still loves what he does. And the people with whom he worked, his clients, were some of the most interesting people I had ever met. And I knew I was not going to be a dancer for a living. And I knew that I was already, from a very young age, I put C in a circle on all of my artwork in kindergarten.
Did you?
I mean, it's just, this is how I was raised. I'm a copyright nerd. And I just loved it. And my mom was always a teacher. And what I do is very much a combination of both of them. And I just grew up loving working in the arts and with folks creating businesses. And it was just kind of a natural progression. I was a poli-sci major and a creative writing minor and history minor in college, went to law school, loved it, not all of it, but most of it, and was able to take all the intellectual property courses and everything. I interned at the Authors Guild. I worked at the Harry Fox Agency.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I was fortunate enough that the Harry Fox Agency, which was Harry Fox and the National Music Publishers Association, was the licensing and lobbying organization for U.S. music publishers. Wow. At the time. Yeah. And I was there for almost 10 years. I was fortunate they gave me a position when I graduated from law school, so I went straight in-house. I was honestly living the dream. It was amazing to be able to go in-house. I was one of two people initially in the legal department, and I had a wonderful boss, and I was exposed to everything, every aspect, audits, litigations, licensing, royalty, you name it. And it was an amazing education.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's just so much fun to listen to you because you're so passionate about what you do. You love what you do so much. It's great to hear that. You know, with your practice, Alissa, when you think about the people that you've helped over the last, you know, say 18 or so years, or as long as you've been in practice, give us a proud moment or a point in time where you helped someone who was really, really not struggling, but they didn't really have a direction or a compass or a North Star, and you were able to really help them, and you know, you're really proud of that, and you really want to replicate that. I'm sure you've got lots of them, but do any come to mind off the top of your head?
Yeah, and I appreciate this question. I had two recently, two very different examples. One was someone who was working in a production, and he had a contract, and he was really not feeling it in his gut, and he was worried, but he really wanted to go. It's very difficult for folks who are creatives in the entertainment business to say no to something.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's just as powerful saying no as it is saying yes and taking a gig.
Yeah.
And he really, and this could have been potentially a pretty big deal. And we went through, and I went through the agreement, we went through the deal points, and I recommended that he not move forward with it. And he talked to me about what a massive relief it was afterwards to realize, because of all he would have given up in the process and what he would have had to do and the amount of time he would have had to put in and what he would have gotten back is so not what he wanted, and he would have lost creative control. But he said having the permission basically and the right to say no was huge, and it was an enormous weight lifted from him, and he was able to then go elsewhere, shop it around, and have a successful deal elsewhere where he felt like he was in a true partnership. And
Yeah.
I think that was a growing moment for him to realize that it was okay to pass on something and something else will be coming.
Absolutely.
Because it's very difficult sometimes and very scary if you feel like that's the only thing. So I always say, you know, ask for the moon, see what happens, or it's okay to walk away. And another example is obviously being able to negotiate and negotiate well and fairly. And I'm definitely a proponent of everybody walks away with something, even though if there's an issue, like I had to send a cease and desist issue for a client with a trademark issue recently. Mm-hmm. And I sent the cease and desist. Usually it's met with, or sue us, or we have a problem or whatever. The guy to whom we sent the business to whom we sent the cease and desist letter said, I want to make this right. What can I do? And it turned out she never thought in a million years she would do this, but ended up selling her trademark to him for a tremendous amount of money.
Wow.
Didn't even think she was going to do that, is moving on to something else in a new business, and everybody walks away with something.
Wow, that is great.
So you just never know.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with that relationship building and
Yes.
what you talked about earlier. We are going to have to take a quick commercial break, Alissa. We'll be right back with more from Elissa D. Hecker after this message from our sponsors, folks. Don't go away.
We're Dr. Mark and Liz from Marriage Matters, a show that inspires, instills hope, and empowers couples to weather the stresses of married life.
Join us each week to hear how couples, real couples like you, have overcome challenges that were hurting their marriages, as well as getting expert advice on ways to nurture a happy and healthy relationship.
Tune in Fridays at 4:30 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 a.m. on RVN TV.
Welcome back to Rainmakers Roundup. I am your host, Mark Iorio. I've got Elissa D. Hecker. Alissa is the principal of her law firm in New York and entertainment and business. And what a great conversation here about relationships and about how you have helped others. And I said to you during the break, Alissa, that my son's in the business and it's sometimes it is difficult, to walk away or to say no, and because as you know, as an entertainer, you want to be rewarded for the hard work that you put in. And if somebody approaches you and says, hey, I've got this opportunity for you, it's not always the best opportunity, and your advice is straight, straight from the heart, straight from the head, to say, based on the way this is looking, maybe it's just not the right thing to do right now. I love that.
Yeah. Well, what I always ask the client is, what do you want? And very often they haven't thought through. They're so busy wanting to get business that it doesn't occur to them to say, what do I want? What is my value? And very often that becomes a much longer conversation.
Yeah, that's true. If you were to think back on your career, right? You've been doing this a while now. Have you think about some of some of the missteps that you've made, that you've learned from, that you would say, look, I wouldn't necessarily do that over again, but I'm glad I did it because it was definitely a learning experience for me, and I'm not gonna repeat it. Now, you've had the benefit of having your dad in the same, in the same business, but you've got to make those mistakes yourself, right? So what kinds of things have you done that you think about these days that were a real learning experience for you?
Well, my first one was taking on matters without asking for a retainer.
Oh.
Because in the beginning, when you do that, and I think everybody in the service industry has gone through something like that, where you take it on good faith, because again, you want to get clients in, and you don't necessarily want to ask for too much. You don't necessarily get paid. So I always ask for a retainer, even if, like I was saying, I work with folks kind of on a scale. If they can't pay my full retainer, I say, think about what you can afford. What is your budget? And I'll work with that. So, but at least that comes in the door first, so I know that because my time is valuable as well, and I respect theirs, and I want them to respect mine. In terms of other stuff, I think there was just a learning curve in a lot of things, and I need to make sure that I don't bill my clients, or I didn't bill my clients for my learning curve. But I think a lot of it is getting over the imposter syndrome initially, and there were times where I wouldn't necessarily take things on because I didn't feel like I had enough experience. Whereas now I know I can take on, I know what I can take on, I know what I'm interested in taking on as well. And I know that I have, like I said, a team around me of really good advisors when I do need to ask questions, that if there's an issue, I know where to go, and I still know I can do it, successfully, and know what questions to ask. So I think it's just time, age, experience, but a lot of that is, and now I'm at the point in my career where, same thing, like I said earlier, I don't have to take on things that I don't want to. And that's another thing where I'm not like actively just taking in absolutely everything. I like my work-life balance. It's very important to me. And I feel like I'm a much better attorney when I'm able to, have my time as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And when you mention that imposter syndrome, a lot of times, it's, we think about those points in life where we're not confident enough to take on the bigger projects, but as we get a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more, a little bit more wisdom, we're able to look back on that and say, you know what, I probably could have handled that, but I wasn't 100% ready for that. But no, that's great. How has, if at all, the pandemic impacted your business, and how are you coming out of it?
It's very weird to say, but it's been, I don't want to say it's been great for business, but it's been interesting because, like I said, so many folks who were previously employed in larger companies have since 2020 branched out. So new businesses have been booming, and that's been fascinating and interesting and exciting in a lot of ways. Also, since the pandemic, networking has been very different because it's funny, I've had a home office that used to be part of my spiel. I've had a home office for 18 years, and I was using Zoom and WebEx and all that stuff, but all of a sudden everybody else is. So I've been able to nurture relationships and really get in deeply with a lot of people, whereas I wouldn't have been able to necessarily internationally or nationally like I've been able to through the pandemic on Zoom through meetings. I also try to network in rooms where I'm the only one who does what I do. I used to be networking mostly in my professional circles, but we all did the same thing. And it's
Yeah.
like a one-off, referral. Now I become the go-to general counsel or the go-to entertainment and arts counsel. And that has really shown me, and again, it takes time. It's been since 2019 and 2020 since I've been working on a lot of these relationships, but they have absolutely paid off in terms of referrals, in terms of trusted advisors, in terms of trusted partners, and I really appreciated that.
I've done the show for almost over 5.5 years, and I interview a lot of attorneys, and not a lot, but enough to know that you're the first one that I've talked to that's in the arts and entertainment business. So, that to me is when you say that, it immediately puts you in a category where no one else is there. I like that lack of competition in a sense, where-
I mean, my colleagues might disagree with you,
Yeah, well,
but
tough.
it's a pretty cordial bar, I have to
Yeah,
say. And one of
love
the nice things about the entertainment and arts bar overall is that we're all closet musicians, performers, writers. So one of the things that I love about being an entertainment arts attorney is that when we get together, we're jamming or we're going out or we're doing something, and it's not just business. It's like everybody has a life outside of work, which is pretty fulfilling.
Let me ask you this: how has dance and the arts and entertainment, being in that business, how has that helped you as an attorney?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's helped me as an attorney. It's just inherently a part of who I am. So I think I can definitely relate to my clients in the creative space because I understand them.
Yeah.
I mean, even now I feel like that 12-year-old outside the door of Broadway with my program, just waiting for my clients to come out so I could have it signed.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about what they do. I also want to be realistic with them and make sure that they understand everything. I know how important it is to protect their intellectual property because that is the copyrights, the trademark, all of their proprietary confidential information. That is the key to their success and the key to their continued success. Whereas very often they want to just sell it all, and we want to really think through and strategize what works best for each of them. And it's been interesting. In the pandemic, a lot of companies, for example, I'm just thinking dance companies, wanted to put things online or Broadway shows or concerts, and they didn't necessarily have the rights to do that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things were repositioned during COVID where I'm a big advocate, and I'm chair of the board of an organization called Dance NYC, which is an umbrella organization for all things dance in the New York metropolitan area. And we do research and advocacy and convening. And one of the things we talk about is, a fair and living wage.
Yeah.
Treating people fairly, raising wages, wellness, all that stuff. So when I work with my clients, I want to make sure that everything that I believe in terms of, diversity, equity, and inclusion, a living wage, working with immigrant artists, working with disability folks, and, on all ends of the spectrum, is all taken into consideration when we're writing agreements, when we're discussing projects, looking through that lens overall. And I really understand what they're doing. So I think it makes me a better human being rather than just a better attorney. And I think this was a very long-winded answer. So I'm sorry for that. I'm just very passionate about this.
Alissa, I think creatives think differently. I think they look at problems, they look to solutions in a very sort of dynamic way. And that's what I mean by that. I think, you definitely come across as a person that has a very non-linear way of looking at processes, right, and solving problems. I've got a couple last questions for you. I know we're coming down to the end of this, unfortunately. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, this has been fun.
It is fun. Real quick, your advice to a younger Elissa D. Hecker, number one, if she was coming up in the entertainment and law world, right? And then the second thing is, I once you answer that, I want you to think about who inspires you or what inspires you.
Advice to a younger: work hard, learn everything, get in everywhere, even if you don't think it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. get a mentor, get mentors. I mean, mentors across the board were, I was very fortunate to have mentors constantly. Just to get in with someone who can help guide you and introduce you places. No job is too small. And I really truly believe that in a lot of ways, but you have to be strategic also. When I was a 20-something-year-old, it was a very different world than what the new lawyers coming out are now. I mean, we were in the office, we were eating out, we were schmoozing, we were in the entertainment business. It was very different than what it is now.
Yep.
But I think just working everything, getting good mentors, and just having fun also, really realizing that you're in a very special time. I was in my 20s in New York City. There's no place else like that in the world to be working and living.
That was exciting.
So I'd say stop and enjoy it a little bit too, which is really good.
That's great advice.
And what inspires me, aside from obviously my family and just being able to wake up every morning, I think I start every day with a 4-mile hike. And I have to be outside at least several times a day. I need to take my moments. And just having nature around really absolutely reinvigorates me and inspires me. And my clients really do. I mean, watching what they do every day is amazing. I don't think I could be an entrepreneur. I can't create most of what my clients are doing and building. And so many of them are making the world a better place. And that really inspires me.
I love this conversation. I really did. This was so much fun. I love the energy. I love your passion. I just love this interview, Elissa. So thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you tell everyone how to get in touch with you, please?
Sure. It's the Law Office of Elissa D. Hecker. It's EHECKERESQ.com is my website. My number is 914-478-0457. I'd love to talk to anyone.
And you're on LinkedIn, right? You're active on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, but I am not very active because I'm not that interesting in my personal life. Always happy to chat.
I love it. Thanks, Elissa. Thanks for joining us so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for Rainmakers Roundup. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful and safe week. We'll see you soon.
Stay cool.